when we combined the daily numbers and the moving averages for the COVID data in the earlier modules, we used a column chart for the daily numbers and a line chart for the moving averages, and then combined these into a single chart. You also know that one of the parameters of the plot function, the dataframe.plot function in pandas, is kind, which allows us to change the type of chart that we're creating. So I've written a line of code that will create a line chart in red for the moving averages and a column chart for the daily cases. Somewhat confusingly, matplotlib uses bar to indicate that we're dealing with a column chart, and bar h when we get a bar chart, but we'll live with that. So let's run this code and see what happens. So here's my line chart, and here is my column chart. Now, one of the issues with the column chart is that there are spaces between the different bars. But we can fix this because if we look at the matplotlib.pyplot bar function, we'll see that one of the parameters in that function is width, and we can use width here, and we'll set the width to 1, and then we'll run it again. And now what we get is the line chart that we want and the column chart that we want. But we still have to combine them. Now, in Power BI and in Tableau, this was fairly straightforward. But in Python, things are a little bit more complicated. To combine these visualizations into a single chart, we need to specify that the bar chart should use the same axes as the line chart. And in order to do so, we need to do two things. First, we need to determine which axis the line chart uses. And second, we need to use those axes for the column chart as well. The first step, determining what axes are used for the line chart, is easy because the function plot does not only show the graph being plotted, it also returns the axis of that graph. And in what form the axes are returned depends on the backend package that is used to create the visualization, in our case, as you know, matplotlib. And the second step, making sure that the column chart uses the axis that we get from the line chart, can be achieved because one of the arguments that can be passed into the plot function is the axis that to use in creating the visualization. So here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to get the axes back from the plot function. So this still plots the line chart, but it also returns the axes. And now what we're going to do is use the parameter x and set those to the axes that we get out of the line chart plot. All right, so let's see what happens when we run this. And now you see we get a single combined chart with the column chart showing the daily cases and the line chart showing the moving average.